smile, your style is so fly. I can't deny, I got a crush on you, and that's truly, and I'm digging you. You make me believe.
Welcome back to my channel. I am Nikki Shantae. Thank you for tuning in, coming back. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I figured I would do, as you already know by the title, a get ready with me. I'm getting ready to go out on a date, so I figured I would at least have a quick little story time as I get ready. So I know my last video, I talked about things I wish I would have known in my 30s, and in that conversation, I actually discussed whenever I was engaged and I called off my engagement. But I just told I didn't really tell the story. I just brought it up. You know, that was something that had happened in my 30s, but I didn't tell the story. So I figured I would dig a little bit deeper in this get ready with me and actually tell the story as to why I called off my engagement, if it's something that, you know, looking back, was it something I'm happy I did or not happy I did? I would say in my 30s, I probably was not as, I've already washed my face and did all of that stuff, but I would say in my 30s, I was still growing. I didn't know I don't think I knew who I was in my 30s just yet, my early 30s. But I was really into society, and I'm looking at my mirror while I'm doing my makeup, but also trying to look at this camera. But I think I was really at a point to where I wanted to get married for sure, but I think it was more so because I had turned 30 and everybody else, I felt like that was the good age. I always was like, oh, I want to be married by 30. And I actually was proposed to right after I turned 30. So I think I might have been like 31 whenever I had gotten engaged. But when I got engaged, I don't think I was actually ready. I think the Nikki then to who I am now, completely two different people. So I think that was, part of it. I was like, I am not ready I wasn't ready to become a wife. I didn't know, my mom had been married for forever. So I knew that, I knew her role, I knew what she did, but I don't think I was actually ready. And I said yes. And I think if I'm also, one, I wasn't ready, but if I'm also being open and transparent, I think I was also the guy who is a really great guy. No bad things to actually say. I just don't think we were each other's persons for the rest of our lives. But when he proposed at my house, just like, here's the ring, will you marry me? And I was excited for the proposal, but not necessarily, I was like, wow. Like in my head, I was just like thinking like, and it might be materialistic, but I think I also am a fairy tale type of chick. So I was like, did I just wait 30 years just to be like, here's the ring, will you marry me? No balloons, no music playing, no nothing. It was just, will you marry me? And I did say yes. And I thought at that time, you know, this is the person that I wanted to spend my life with. But as we went through the actual process of really planning our lives together, I think that's where those hard questions come into play. how do you want to raise kids? Because neither of us had kids. So neither of us had kids, but he had been married before and gotten divorced, of course. So we didn't ask like the hard questions before we got engaged. We asked the hard questions after we got engaged, which was, how do you want to raise kids? What do you think the man's role or husband's role is in a relationship? What do you think the woman's role is in a relationship? What do you think about discipline? What do you think about finances? So we didn't really discuss finances before we got engaged. I had just recently purchased my first home, and I purchased it by myself. And he had a house that he had in his previous marriage. So he still had that home. And we never actually dug deep and discussed like financial resources or how we would combine those. So when we got engaged, that's when we started to really dig deep and have those conversations. And with all of that, and how we would raise kids, where we would want to live. We lived on two different sides of the city. So how we would want to raise kids. So we didn't have those conversations as far as where we wanted to raise our kids. And once we started having those conversations, I think that's when we realized that maybe this isn't the right match. Like on paper, things looked amazing. We probably, everybody would be like, oh gosh, this would be a great couple. But in actual reality of it, real life, day to day, finances, the love, the compassion, those things didn't really align. And unfortunately, it took us planning a wedding or getting to those stages to actually say, maybe this isn't the person for me, or maybe I'm not ready. And it wasn't him saying it. It was more so me saying it. And I don't know if he probably ever would have said it because he had already been through one divorce. So I don't think he probably would have said it. But it was that. And then also I realized like, oh my goodness, just because you're 30, 31, 32, whatever it is, whatever the age, age is just an age. It doesn't mean that you have finished growing, that you know everything, that you have everything in order or in line. It just means you turned another, like you've done one whole year around the sun, basically. Doesn't mean that you're ready for marriage or that you're ready to even have kids. It just is, hey, this is the age you are, and then it's up to you to really take those actual things into account and say, hey, am I ready for this next venture of my life? Am I ready to have kids? Am I ready to become one? Am I ready to take this next step in my life to, to build a whole family with someone? And I think once all of those things started to come into play, that's where I was like, oh, let me think. Let me see if this is what I really can see for a long term. I never, even to this day, like if I get married, I want it to be the one and only time that I get married. I don't, and I can't, that's what I'm saying. That's what I hope for. Who knows what will happen, but in my eyes, I only want to do it one time. And so I don't think anything is 100%, proof, but I do know that I want to feel it in my bones, like in my soul. I want to feel like this is it. I want to have that feeling, and I want to know for sure going into it, this is the person that I want to be with for the rest of my life. And so I think that is what I didn't have. The certainty wasn't there. I wasn't like, this is going to be my forever person after we started to dig a lot deeper into what marriage would look like for the two of us. And so that was the hard part. And unfortunately, it was hard, definitely, because, we both were thinking this is what we wanted. And things, they change. That's a big shift. But and I still remember I went to my mom's house and I said, I gotta tell you something. She was like, okay, what's up? And I said, I can't go through with this engagement. Like, I can't do it. I said, I thought about it, I prayed about it, and I don't see it working after we had gone through these like different types of sessions and stuff like that. And she says, and I'm sitting on her bed, and she's like, you know what? She said, the moment he proposed, I knew it wasn't going to work. She said, no, the moment he proposed, I knew he wasn't the one. And I said, and I asked her, I was like, well, why didn't you tell me? Like, why didn't you say something then, or say something before? Because she knew before he actually proposed, she knew what, the plans were. So she knew. So I was like, why? I was mad at her. I was like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you give me a heads up? Or why didn't you say, stop me from going through, the process or starting the process? I was like, why didn't you just say, Nikki, I don't think this is it. Like, you're in over your head. Why didn't you tell me that? And she says, because you gotta learn yourself to know when something is not right, and you have to learn how to trust your gut and when to be mature enough to actually take how you feel and what's in your gut and say, this is not it. But she said she knew. She said she knew. She said the moment he proposed, she said she knew. And I'm pretty sure she probably knew maybe a little bit before that, but I guess something as a mom was confirmation for her in that moment that she seen, that she was like, this isn't her forever person. So it wasn't anything salacious. It was more so just that I was 30 and still too young. I had just purchased my own house by myself. I was just really getting started into my career. I wasn't sure on how to be a wife, and the only thing that I was certain about is that I didn't want to get a divorce, and that I wanted to be strong, and that I had it in me to be stronger than to say, hey, I'm actually not ready. And this isn't the way it's supposed to be for me at this moment. So I'd rather take whatever is going to come my way for calling this off and go through whatever I needed to go through to get me to this point right here. you know, even though I'm still not married, but I'm actually like in finding and knowing like what your purpose is key. And a lot of people, that's like the hardest thing, is to be able to know what your purpose is. And I think for once I'm actually starting to actually like walk in mine. So what probably was the hardest thing for me to do then is starting to actually, like, it took me through everything that I needed to go through in my 30s to get me here to this point today. So the only thing I could say is it was probably the best thing I could have done. So I'm gonna be excited and happy for whatever is to come in my life this next year, this next 2 years. Whatever is going to happen is going to be the things that's supposed to be happening. So yeah, there you go. That is why I called off my wedding. This was because your girl was unsure. Never wanted to get a divorce. And I didn't wait a lifetime for someone to just be like, here you go. And you know what? Maybe that isn't actually so bad, because if it's the right person, I probably would just be like, this man proposed to me at the bus stop. And that could be like the best story to me, because it was the right person and it's the right person, right timing, right guy. Like I couldn't ask for anything more. So I don't know. I think that's what it is. I think when you know, you know, and when you don't, you don't. They always tell guys that. When you know, how did you know she was the one? Like when you know, you know. And when you know it's not it, then it's either, the best thing is, do you have the courage to walk away from it, or do you not? You know? So I'm grateful though that I had the courage to actually be mature enough to say, this isn't going to work. So yeah, that is it. My makeup, that was super quick, super quick. Not a lot. I didn't do that much. All right, I want to just close this video out. I have now gotten dressed. I have my bracelet. I have pearl earrings on, Apple Watch, James Avery charm bracelet. This dress is from Zara. And then I have on some Steve Madden heels. And I don't know the name of the fragrance that I put on. I'll have to check it, but I will add it below just in case you want to know. But thank you for taking the time out to watch this video and get ready with me as I get ready for this date. Very chill vibe, hair in a bun, and that's it. So thank you, and I will see you next time. Don't forget, like, comment, and